What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Kevin Jackowitz with the Cage Review and Cage Nation. We are about to look at Raw for 2/26/18. This is right after the Elimination Chamber. There were a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong with the Elimination Chamber, but honestly, overall, Raw brand especially has been putting out a much better product than they have been lately. I've been really impressed with the writing. Well, I don't know if I should say really impressed, but they've been doing a lot better than they have in the last several years. It's like they're actually taking the time to think about what they're doing for once, and I love it. So, Elimination Chamber, we know Roman Reigns won the Men's Elimination Chamber. Alexa Bliss retained for the Women's Elimination Chamber. So, we have the stage set up now for at least a couple of the main matches for WrestleMania, which is the next major pay-per-view for Raw. We still have Fastlane for SmackDown, which I couldn't think of the name of that when I was doing the SmackDown review. I mean, it's a fairly new pay-per-view, and honestly, I think the name is kind of retarded. But we start off with the women. They do a recap of the whole Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And then Alexa Bliss starts out. She comes down with Mickie James. And she's talking about how she's going to be the first one to beat Asuka. And of course, Asuka comes down and she runs right into the ring with Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. And it looks like kind of a setup because now all of a sudden Nia Jax is bolting down behind Asuka, and Asuka's trapped between Alexa, Mickie, and Nia. And all three of them start to beat down on her. And then Sasha Banks and Bayley come down to help out Asuka. So that sets up a match, which is, of course, Bliss, Mickie James, and Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Asuka herself. So the biggest thing that this match did was really start to tell the storyline between Bayley and Sasha Banks, where it looks like Banks is maybe going to be the one to turn heel. I don't know, but either way, Bayley or Banks is headed toward a heel turn, it looks like. After the Elimination Chamber, where Sasha Banks was going to help Bayley up on one of the pods because they were both chasing after Alexa Bliss, Banks kicked Bayley off the pod and kind of stabbed her in the back yet again. Kind of a storyline that they've been doing that for a while. And so the biggest story during this match is Sasha Banks goes to tag Bayley. Bayley's reaching out, and then she just pulls her hand back and jumps off the apron. And Bayley does go back into the match to help out Asuka, but clearly it sets the separation between these two. Asuka pulls out the win. No surprise there. They're building her up to be the perfect beast for the women's division. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Banks and Bayley. And it looks like that's probably going to be a match at WrestleMania, I would assume, Banks and Bayley. Which, I mean, they're both really good. They can both put on really good matches. So that's something that I would not mind seeing for sure. And of course, you've got Asuka and Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss, I really like her storytelling ability in matches. And Asuka's just hard-hitting as hell. So for the women's division, at least for Raw, it looks pretty damn good. It really does. Then you do have a John Cena promo where John Cena's talking about he's had all these chances on Raw. He's failed at all of them, but he's not going to stop. And he's going to go over to SmackDown. And so he says that he's going to be at SmackDown tomorrow. Then you go to Bray Wyatt does a bit where he's supposed to have a match with Heath Slater. And instead of having a match, he just bowls through both Heath Slater and Rhino. And he grabs a microphone and he's like, you know, look what you made me do, Matt Hardy. Because Matt Hardy, of course, beat him at Elimination Chamber. And now this is the aftermath where now Bray Wyatt is now snapped. So kind of a complete squash, and then building up the mental snap from Bray Wyatt. And then you have a Miz promo where he's talking about all of his accomplishments, and he needs to be the main match at WrestleMania and yada yada yada. And so he's like, I don't care who my opponent is, I'm going to beat him. And then out comes Seth Rollins. So that sets up a match with Rollins and Miz. Rollins was really favoring one of his legs. And I really got to think that Rollins isn't going to have the longest career, because he does wrestle pretty hard. He does a lot of very, very dangerous moves. And, he's going to wear his legs out for sure. So I am worried about his longevity. But having said that, decent match. Rollins wins. And then immediately Finn Balor's music hits. Like, Seth Rollins doesn't really have time to celebrate or anything. And so somehow it's a match now with Finn Balor and The Miz. And The Miz wrestles for like 45, 50 minutes. So, I mean, he's in there for a while, and he's getting it. And one thing I want to point out is Seth Rollins, he does an hour and 5 minutes. And of course he's tired, but he doesn't look too worse for wear. Same thing with The Miz doing his 45 minutes to 50 minutes match that he just had here against Seth Rollins and then Finn Balor. But the side note is that if you look back at Roman Reigns during the Elimination Chamber match, pulled off a good match. He had some good spots, there's no doubt about it. But at the end of that match, there was nothing left of that man, and you could tell he was so freaking tired. Like, he was in a lot of pain, because I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you're sucking wind so hard that it hurts. You could see him grabbing his throat. So that says a lot about Reigns as far as his stamina goes. And what they do is not easy, and I'm not trying to say that it is. But I am saying that might prove to be a factor with Reigns. But anyway, back to the match at hand. The Miz, he takes another loss to Finn Balor. There wasn't any real big spots in this second match. I mean, Miz was wearing down, and, that's just kind of comes with the territory. When you're working that hard for that long, your body just gets tired. Doesn't really matter how good a shape you're in. But at any rate, so now you have both Finn Balor and Seth Rollins that have pinned The Miz. And actually Seth Rollins was watching the second match with Finn Balor from one of the screens. And they did an interview, and it's like, who gets to wrestle The Miz? Seth is talking about he wants his WrestleMania spot, and he wants the Intercontinental Championship. So now it looks like they might have a triple threat with Balor, Rollins, and The Miz at WrestleMania. I'm sure they're still working that out, but that's what it looks like. The Miz Taraj, they jump Balor after the match, and then out comes Gallows and Anderson, and they, kind of deal with the Miz Taraj. Then you have a Roman Reigns promo. And at the beginning of Roman Reigns' career, I was very outspoken about his push when he wasn't ready. I've always said that the guy is at least decent in the ring. I've never said that he's great in the ring, but honestly, I don't know if I can look back at a match of his and say that I wasn't at least entertained by it. So, giving the devil his due, Roman Reigns, who typically is either forgetting lines or just kind of terrible on the mic, pulls out what I think was his best promo to date. And I don't know if... So let me set the stage here. On Raw Talk after the Elimination Chamber, Paul Heyman sets the stage that Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns are going to be face to face on Raw. For some reason, Brock Lesnar didn't show up on Raw, and that pissed some people off. We don't know why, we don't know what's going on, we don't even know if he was really scheduled, to be very fair and honest. It could all be script. If it was script, it was the absolute perfect thing to do. If it was not script, then I applaud Roman Reigns for saying what needed to be said. So Roman Reigns, he gets out there, he starts this promo, and he stops and he's like, I don't know why I'm covering for this guy, and he's looking to the back. And then he says, Brock Lesnar isn't here, and he starts talking about how this guy doesn't really respect the business, and he hides behind his contract, and everybody else is busting their ass, and he gets to show up whenever he wants. And I gotta say, if it was a scripted promo, it was perfected. It was honestly exactly what needed to be done to get Reigns over. If it wasn't scripted and Reigns decided to really just call Brock Lesnar out, then it was exactly what he needed to do. Because it did get him over. You could hear the crowd cheering for him. And I think that, it says a lot about where Reigns is growing. We all know that he struggles with the microphone and doing promos, but this was far and away, like I said, in my opinion, the best he's ever done. So, he's had some really good matches lately. He did good in the Elimination Chamber, no matter how tired he was at the end. He actually pulled off a really good match. And then he comes back the next day and pulls off probably the best promo of his career. So I've been saying the last couple of weeks that Reigns is getting better. And you can say what you want. You have to give credit where it's due. And the guy is improving. And I think with tonight, he was improving leaps and bounds. So, all the credit in the world. Then you come after that to a 2 out of 3 falls match with The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus versus Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. And it's kind of a rehashing, just I think kind of slamming the door shut on this particular feud. And so Sheamus and Cesaro set it up where Cesaro distracts Titus by running from one side of the ring and out underneath the ropes on the other side of the ring. And then Sheamus brogue kicks him. End of the first match right there. So it's up 1 fall for The Bar. And the second fall goes to The Bar as well. It was a longer match and they had some good spots. Of course, Apollo Crews showing off his crazy athleticism. But The Bar win 2 and out. And then they have a promo afterwards. It's like, we've beaten every tag team there is. Who's left for us to beat? And he's like, that's one of the problems of being this good is now we may not have opponents for WrestleMania. So who knows where that's going, but I did like that. I really did. And then they had the Jarius J.J. Robinson, had to look at the name, and he's up for the Warrior Award this year, and he had this liver condition that could have killed him on several occasions and had a lot of health effects, and it stunted his growth, and it showed this little kid struggling through this disease and being very positive and happy about it and like living life as much as he could, even though he was in a lot of pain a lot of times. And then he finally got the liver transplant that set and worked, and so now he's a much happier, healthier person. So it was a good promo, and I think it was a good choice for the Warrior Award. I've never seen this kid before, obviously, but now having seen him, I think it was nice. So then we move to Elias versus Strowman. Elias comes out, does his usual gimmick. He's definitely getting over with the crowd. Strowman comes out and you know, it's typical Strowman versus anybody match. He's going to beat Elias all over. Winds up in a DQ. Not much there. So I don't know if that's going to go anywhere or not, if they were just trying to fill in a spot. And this is the one part of the show where it looked like it was just kind of thrown together. They had the Elias Strowman bit just before the Elimination Chamber to set up the Elimination Chamber. And I think they were just trying to carry on from that. So then you close the show with Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. Ronda Rousey, we all know, had the contract signing at the Elimination Chamber. Kurt Angle started telling Rousey that Triple H and Stephanie McMahon were still bitter about what she did to him a few years ago at WrestleMania, and they were trying to keep her under their thumb. So Rousey puts Triple H through a table. Tonight, this segment, I wasn't honestly the biggest fan of, and I'm going to get into why. It starts out with like Kurt Angle, he's telling Ronda he needs his job, and he starts playing the little bitch part, and he's telling Ronda that he lied and making Kurt Angle look really bad. And so everybody's apologizing to everybody about what happened at the Elimination Chamber. And Ronda Rousey says, okay, we're all done except for Stephanie McMahon. You haven't apologized for slapping me. And so she says, so you can apologize or I'm going to rip your arm off. At which point, Stephanie McMahon does this crazy blow-up type apology where she rushes up, pokes her chest out, looks down at Ronda, and then she says, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. It really hurt Kurt Angle. It did not make Ronda Rousey look like a beast. As a matter of fact, it made her look like she's another punk put in her place. So you have literally the most legitimate women's fighter to ever grace a WWE ring, and you're going to have Stephanie McMahon, of all people, punk her out, which is essentially what happened. And that's exactly what it looked like, and it made Ronda Rousey look bad. And then Triple H knocking Kurt Angle on his ass made him look really bad. It was just a terrible segment, and bringing in Ronda Rousey, this is probably the stupidest thing they could have done. I did not like it. Overall, a really good show, but if you end on a sour note, guess what people are going to remember? The sour note. And they ended this show horribly. They did not get Ronda Rousey over whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they got Stephanie McMahon over, and she's not even a fucking wrestler. So, I was really disappointed with that. I really was. They could have done so much more and so much better, but they didn't. So, it is what it is. Overall, the show, I'd give it a... you know, I mean, because of the ending, I'd probably have to give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think that they did the right thing at all with that last segment. It left a sour taste in my mouth after watching what was a decent show. I just wasn't having it. I was not feeling it at all. So I really hope next Monday they come back and they do something to fix what they screwed up here. Because, like I said, Ronda Rousey looks like a punk now. And that's horrible. So, that's my thoughts. Did you guys see the show? What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. What did you think, especially that last bit with Rousey? Do you think that maybe they should have done something to build up her monster character a little bit more? I get really tired of seeing Stephanie McMahon get over on everybody. But especially in this case, it was stupid. It made zero business sense. And I don't know. So, if you enjoyed the review, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackwoods. Cage Nation out.